Arrays are usually array is a reference type in Java. It's a true object or a class. It's a reference type. And when I say it's a reference type, what do I mean? What do I mean? To create any reference type, you need the what? The new keyword. So if I want to create an array of integers, as I said from day one, Java programmers or those who started the language, most of them are coming from what? C++. So they came with the what? C++ syntax. So Java still accepts what? C++ way of declaring what? An array. And it also has its own way of what? Declaring an array. So assuming I want to create an array of integers, I'm assuming you all know what an array is. Array of integers. And no. Array of integers, we use this symbol to depict maybe numbers is equal to new, and then specify the size, maybe for 5 numbers. So first, the data type, the square braces, then the name of the array variable, then the new keyword, because array is a reference type, so it also needs the what? The new keyword. Then the data type again, then specify the size of the array. Just know that with arrays, before you can use them, you must specify the size that you want to use at compile time. You can't change the size of an array at runtime. So you specify the size at compile time. You can't change it at runtime. So I'm saying numbers is equal to what? Int is equal to 5. So I specify the size to be 5. Then, so now that I have this how to declare this one way. The other way could have been if I want a character array, car symbols equal to new car. Then I want to store 6 symbols. You can see I've been swapping the position. If you are coming from C background or C++, this is normal, even in C#. But in Java, this is also accepted. So whichever one you think will work for you, you use it. They are both accepted. But always you must specify the what? The size. Specify the size of the array. Now you have 3 ways of initializing an array. 3 ways of initializing an array. When I say initializing, when you create it, you must put data into it. You call this the size of the array. Then you have indexes of arrays. Each array has an index. So if I want to know the index of the array, it's very simple. Just use the name of the array. So numbers, then this. So assuming I want to store 2 at that position, I'll just say, or starting from 0. Let me use 1. So just know that with arrays, the numbering starts from what? 0. It uses indexes. So number index 0 is equal to what? 1. Number or numbers index 1 is equal to 2. You don't have to follow the order. You can jump to any order. I can jump straight to 5. 5 is not possible because that's my last distance. So it should be less than what? The size. That's what I mean. Numbers. When I say 5, it will accept here. But runtime, it will complain because it said I need what? 5 location. And you are starting from 0. So 0 to 4. So if the size is n, the number of elements is what? N minus what? 1. So you can't do this. You can do it, it will accept it here, but when you compile it, you get either array index out of bound exception or other exception. So this one way of initializing an array using the what? The indexing. So this is the indexing, and the indexing is what? Nothing but what? The index of each array location. And just note, arrays are what? Nothing but what? Memory blocks or memory locations. Continuous memory locations in what? For storing variables of the same type. So this is one way. Assuming I want to print the content of it, array by default has overriding the toString method. You know the toString method is used for what? Printing your what? Reference types or your classes. If I want to display any information about my classes, I use the what? toString method. So if I want to display this, I don't need to override the toString because that's already been overridden what? The array class. So I'll just type. Then I'll print the numbers. When I print the numbers, I'm expecting to get the output. It's supposed to be the numbers. Why is it not giving me the numbers? Well, is it being long or what? Well, I don't know. It's not working as I knew array was supposed to print this thing. But if it's not giving you the numbers, just know this is one way of initializing it. Normally, for arrays, you use for loop. You all know what for loops are. For loop. And it's the same in Java here. Your normal for loop. For assuming I want to loop through this array. For int I starting from 0, I less than, I said 5, so less than 5. It starts from 0, so it's less than 5 here. Comma I plus plus. I'll open and close. Then here I want to display this, so I'll just bring this out here and say number index I. So this will look through the content of the array and print them one by one for me. You understand this for loop? Starting from 0, 0 less than 5. Increment it anytime you iterate through it. So we run this. We get what? 1, 2, 0, whatever. All the content. You can see we are getting 0 for the what? Which of the positions? The second position or the third position. 0, 1, 2. We didn't specify it for 2. And in Java, each data type has its default value. And for integer, the default value is what? 0. Because you didn't specify, it kept 0 over there for us. So that's one way of initializing and looping through the array. The second way is what we call the on the fly. That one, this is how you go by it. You don't, as you are creating, then you are giving the content. So I want symbols. I want to print Ghana. You just open your curly braces. So this, then I'll terminate, then I'll start. Because it's characters, I must follow the what? The syntax. So J, comma, H, comma, A, comma, N, comma, A. So I've created an array and initialized the content at the same time. The compiler will automatically count the content and put the size there for me. So you usually call this one on the fly. You create and initialize at the same time. I can loop through this one to get the content of that one too. It's the same thing. I can just, let me just copy this. This time I'll not loop through the numbers. I'll loop through what? The symbols. 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 Is it 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? This is not the best way. I'll teach you the best way. But let me comment the top one. Then I'll remove the print line so that it will go one word. You know the print line will add a new line per every print. If you don't want a new line, you do the normal print. So it prints what? Ghana for me. This is an array that contains individual characters, G-H-A-N-A. That's an array. So this is one way. Then the last way, so we've talked about two ways. By using the indexing, using on the fly, and the other way is using what? A for loop. So I can also use a for loop to initialize it. That one is a matter of logic. So assuming I create another int count nums is equal to new int maybe 10. Then I want to initialize this one using a for loop. I'll just come down here the normal for loop. For int I is equal to 0, I less than 10, I plus plus, I less than 10, I plus plus. Then when I come here, the same way I was printing it here, I was taking the content and printing it one by one. I'll do the same thing here. I'll take the what? Count num index I is equal to I plus 1. I plus 1. Let me print the count num and see. So I'll create another for loop for the count num. Count num, and it's 10, so it should be less than 10. I'll comment the print of this one so that you can see the only output of this one. I don't want it to be on separate line, so let's move the new line. So you get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Because you are using some logic here to do what? We are saying go through the count number. When I is 0, so look at count index 0. Take this 0 and add 1 to it and store it at that location. Then I iterate through, take this one, add this and store it at that location. So what? The condition becomes false. So those arrays and initializing it and going through it. But there's a better way of going through an array. Have you used for each in C#? For each. You have a similar one in Java. But we don't use for each, it's just the normal for. But we call it enhanced for loop. Enhanced for loop. So it's the same thing, just like the normal for loop. But that's how it works. So if assuming I want to loop through any of them, I'll just say for. This is how the enhanced for loop works. For. Then it has two parts. The first part is the data that you are expecting from that what? Array. And the second part is the name of the array that you want to iterate through. So it's just like a collection or a table. You have a table, rows and columns. So first you pass the whole set, the whole table to the enhanced for loop. Then as you iterate through line by line, the result there you store it in what? One variable. So the first part is the return type, and the second part is the what? The data that you are iterating through. What do I mean by that? You have three arrays here. You have numbers, count numbers, and symbols. Assuming I want to look through the numbers, I know the numbers is of type what? Integers. So I just say int n. I can use any variable, int n, then colon, the name of the array. The array I want to iterate through is numbers. So this will get the numbers. This is how it works. It's more or less like this. It's like a table. It's like a table. You know, array is like a table. So you have this numbers, I need 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So you pass the whole array, this for the array to the enhanced for me. Then as we do, we are expecting what? In each record, what's the data here? This one, an integer. So you are expecting an integer. So the data type that you are expecting here should be the one that will come. So as you are iterating, the result that we get, you store it in what? N. Then you do whatever I want to do with it. So in my case, I just want to print out. So I just open and close the curly brace. If I want to print it out, I just print n. Because I've specified that. Look through these arrays. Then whatever that you get from that result set or one row, return it and store it n. Then you do whatever you want to do with the n. But the purpose of the enhanced for is for what? Display the content of an array and collections. It's not only arrays, it also works on collections. So that's the purpose of an array. This enhanced for. So when I just run this one, let me move the new line. We run it, we'll see it prints 12067, the content of the what? The array for us. Yes, as we're using a normal what? For loop to do it. Now, array also come with some other methods. How do you know a method that comes with the class? How do you know a method, the number of methods that come with the class? Not the method name. What before the dot? Well, that one will work only when you are referring to static methods or class methods. How do you know the number of methods in a class? Relax. Just think through the question. How do you know the number of methods? Yes. Assuming you have a class somewhere and you want to know the existing method in the class, how will you go about it? Oh. There's a class. I'm class A. I'm open. I'm a public class, so you can create an instance of me. I have some methods, but before you use the class, you want to know the methods that exist. How will you go about it? How will you go about me knowing I'm a class A? What are you thinking? You are on the right. You finished your statement. You're on the right track, but you're using the wrong terms. Wole. Oh, if you want to know the methods, how do you know? You create an instance of the class dot. You need to press the dot. All the methods which are public will be there. Then you see the methods there. Then you can call them. So this array that I've created, I want to know what methods come with the array class. So I just call any of them nonce dot. Then I'll look through. You see there is a length. Yesterday when you see this blue icon, what does it tell you? It's a public what? No. Data member. Data member. A public instance variable. That's why it's like that. If there's a method, you would have seen the what? Parentheses closing at the end, like the next one. This is a method, this is a method, this is a method. But this is what? A public property. Length. So every array has a length property. And the length returns the size or the number of items in the what? The array. So instead of here, we trying to know the size of the array, we could have just said if like this, if I want to display or look through the count numbers, I'll just say count num dot length. It has a length property. I less than. So this one will tell me the what? The length of the what? The count number. So I don't have to specifically say 10, 5, or 4. Once you know there's an array like that, use the length property to get the length of the array. Then you look through it. Or if you don't want to go through that wahala, use your what? Enhance for loop. But just note, enhance for loop is just meant for what? Display. Then you also have multi-dimensional arrays, just like any other integer. Assuming you have a matrix, so int met, just specify two-dimensional new and then specify the size. But one of them is compulsory. You can't leave one of them to be empty. You get an error. Always the first one must have a size. So if you are doing multi-dimensional or two-dimensional array, the first one must have a size. And in this one, this is how it works. It works like an associative array, an array of array. The multi-dimensional array in Java is an array of array. So you have two. Let me bring the 12 here. This 4. Maybe 4 by 2. This is how this one will look like. It will look like, when I say 4 by 2, it's a normal 4 by 2 matrix. Where 4 is the number of rows and 2 is the number of columns. The number of columns. So the number of rows is 1, 2, 3, 4. And you have 2 columns. So it will be something like this. 4 by what? 2. And this is how it works. If we're to fold this, it will be like the first row. Each it's kind of something like this. You have 4 rows. 4 rows. And each row points to another arrow, which has what? 2 rows. I get it. It's doing like this, working like this. By internal, this is how it works. You have 4 rows. It will create one arrow. Then it will create another arrow. And you make the first one point to another 2. This one point to another 2. This one point to another 2. So it will end up being like 4 by 2. By internal, this is how it works. So we say it's what? An array of what? Arrow. An array of arrow. And that one too, when you have to initialize it, use 2 for loops. 4 loop within a nested for loop. Or you can use the initializer list. Where if assuming I wanted to initialize this, I'll just do this. I'll just do. So I want to create 4 by 2 matrix. I'll do 4. I can put it another curly brace 4, 3, 2, 1. Then comma. So the first one is for 1 row. Then I'll start another row. 3, 2, 1, comma, another row. 2, 1. Then to loop through this, we will need 2 for loops. I'll not move down, I'll just do everything up here. 2 for loops. The inner and the outer for loops. So I'll create 4. And since I don't know the size of the iris, I'll just use, let me use some big values for now and see I is equal to 0, I less than 10, I plus plus. This will be 1 for loop. Then internally I'll create another for loop for and j is equal to 0, j less than, assuming also 10, j plus plus. Always when you are dealing things of this kind of nature, always the outer for loop usually refers to the number of rows. It refers to the number of rows, and the inner for loop refers to the number of columns. It refers to the number of columns. So if I want to loop through this or display the content, sys out. Here I'll just say math, then I'll pass the indexes. So I, j, so that I'll get the content of whatever is inside. So row 1, column this, row 1, column this, row this, column this. Let me comment any sys out down there. Then we'll see the output, then we'll explain it. I've given 2 my size. Let me try and fix it and see. Okay, it's now working. So let me remove the print line. So it's printing, but line. Let me print a new line here for us to see the effect. I'll just print new line. So you see the content. This is what we are doing. It's very simple. We have a multi-dimensional array. a multi-dimensional array. And here it is. You didn't specify the size. You use the what? The indexing method. The indexing, the compiler will automatically what? Count the size of the what? The content and allocate the size for us. So you have 4, 3, 2, 1, 3, 2, 1, then 2, 1. So this is roughly the size of our array. And I said if you have two-dimensional array, always you get a content through what? Nested what? For loops. And always the first or the outer for loop refers to what? The rows, and the inner one refers to what? The columns. Then we know every array, or we know an array is what? A reference type. And by being a reference type, it means a class. And every class has some methods or properties. An array happens to have a length property. A length property, which returns the size of what? The items in the what? That array. Then when it comes to outer for loop, the usual I is equal to 0, I less than. Math is the name of what? Our matrix. Then math.length. So this math.length will count the what? The outer what? For loop or the number of loops to count 1, 2, 3. It will count this one. The number of columns here. So you have 1, 2, 3. So you leave this one for this guy to count. Then when it comes inside, I say j is less than max index I. So this max depends on this. As I said, this multi-dimensional is nothing like what? An array of what? Array. So this first one is an array. This is an array. So this one will point to another array. Then we look through the content and I get displayed it. So this is how multi-dimensional array or two-dimensional array works. So when it comes to arrays, you must be good with logic and your for loops. To be playing around with the content, modifying, changing it, adding it.